Conducting a root cause analysis is critical when food safety issue, recall, or other crisis arises. But the analysis is only half the battle. If you're not taking action to correct the cause, then the analysis is really of little value. I'm Lisa Lupo, the host of Tag Talks Food Safety, and today I am welcoming Tag Director of Food Safety, Lacey Keesee, to discuss the critical corrective action steps of a root cause analysis. Welcome, Lacey.
Hello, Lisa. Thank you.
Good to have you on. So, late last year, TAG's Senior Manager of Food Safety, Angela Ferrelli-Gruber, was a guest on our video podcast to provide a look at the root cause analysis and how these help keep food products and customers safe. So we've also provided a link to that in the description. But Lacey, can you give a brief review of how the analysis is used to determine the root cause of a problem?
Sure, Lisa. Root cause analysis is a systematic method of problem solving. Simply put, it is just something that you can use that's a retrospective investigation tool, which will help food firms, restaurants, retail chains, anyone in the industry determine the underlying reasons for a problem that continually occurs. And why this is important, obviously, we don't want reoccurring problems in our world of food, but also it is part of a regulatory requirement to ensure that proper corrective actions are taken when any type of food safety deviation occurs.
Okay. Thank you for that review. So, what does a facility do if they've conducted that analysis and they find that there's more than one cause for an issue?
Sometimes it can happen that you find two most likely probable reasons that an issue occurred, and you absolutely should follow up on both of those root causes. Now, this can get a little complex, and it's very important to document both investigations, both corrective action plans, and all of the evidence that supports why you feel like both of these things caused a problem. Sometimes you can actually have a root cause identified and also identify what we call contributing factors. And those
Mhm.
are more symptoms of the issue when the root cause is really what made the issue happen in the first place. So that gets little bit complicated to figure out, but as long as you're tracking what you believe is the root cause and you put in proper corrective actions, you should see the problem get eliminated. If you don't see the problem go away, you probably have not found that root cause.
Okay. So, if you found the root cause, and maybe a bunch of them, but you've decided which one was the main root cause that you need to focus on, but what do you do now? What is the next step then?
So, in your investigation, you definitely want to document your reasoning, use the specific tools that we have in root cause analysis, whether it's a 5 why or fishbone, maybe even a brainstorming exercise. And then you want to ensure that you're following up on those actions based on your risk. So, when we're talking about
Okay.
food safety, risk is the most important thing. And that's where you need to prioritize your energy and all of your resources.
Okay. So, I assume then that you want to take quick corrective action, right?
Yes, that's very important. And you actually can define the different actions that you're taking into three categories. The very
Okay.
first thing that you're going to do, that quick action, is typically referred to as a correction. And that's when you're going to stop your line, halt production, put product on hold when you first realize, uh oh, we have a problem.
Okay.
Then once you do your investigation, you're going to go into what we call the corrective action. So, okay, we held all of the product. Now we need to do some sampling or gather information in the investigation phase to find out what the root cause was. And then we need to put in a fix. That's your
Okay.
corrective action. The third category is your preventive action. So once you've identified the root cause, put in your correction and your corrective action, you need to figure out what you can do to ensure that this problem does not occur again. That's your preventive action.
Okay. So if I've identified a corrective action, but say it's something that's pretty major or it's going to cost me a lot of money and I really can't do it right away, what do I do? And do you have any examples you can provide?
Yes, the most important thing to do, especially if you've got a root cause of maybe where we need to build some new walls. That's a
Yeah.
pretty big expense for a factory or even a small business to have to deal with. So there are things that you can do in the meantime that will help you control food safety. The very important thing to do is a risk analysis, which is going to say, okay, perhaps we're going to put up some temporary Tyvek walls, which is like
Okay.
a really strong plastic that kind of helps us solve this problem in a temporary manner. And we know in maybe a year or two, when we get the budget, we're going to be able to build a concrete brick wall or something to that fact.
Okay. So do what you can right away, but be planning for something that's more permanent.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you did also mention preventive action and you've talked corrective action. So what's the difference between the two and why are both needed?
The difference between the two is truly defined by the way that you are treating your actions. So, a corrective action, for example, is something where you're going to put in a comprehensive plan that's going to address that root cause and it's going to control it. The preventive action and the difference between those two is really what lies in what originally happened during your investigation and what you found out. So perhaps you found that the food safety team did not have the knowledge to know that this problem may have occurred, that it was even a risk to your factory or to your food source. And understanding the training or the knowledge requirements for someone putting your food safety plan in place could be something that you follow up on as a preventive action. We always see folks using training as a preventive action. That's not usually where you want to go with that because
Okay.
normally your root cause is going to be something beyond training. So you completely missed that fact. The risk wasn't even outlined in the food safety plan. And that's really going towards that preventive action to find out, was it our training failure or was it the fact that we didn't even know this could happen in the first place?
Okay. And that's why even kind of going back to something you said earlier, if you use the five whys or whatever to really make sure you're getting down to that root cause.
Absolutely. The five whys is my favorite tool to use doing
Okay.
RCAs. And the reason it's just so simple, you continue to ask the question why until you cannot ask why anymore. And that is most of the time going to be your root cause.
Yeah. Does it go beyond five times sometimes?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. You just keep going and going and going. Okay. Well, thanks, Lacey. That's I think you've done a really great overview of the corrective actions and preventive actions and what they are and why they're needed and all that good stuff. So, um, having provided that kind of big overview too, what would you see as the most important takeaways for our listeners?
One of the biggest things to remember, especially from a regulatory side, is to document your program. You might
Okay.
have a corrective action where you're just logging certain things, and that could suffice, but you need to be prepared to defend your status and what you did with good notes and documentation on your investigation. So you have to be able to prove this is where we got to our root cause. These are all the details that we gathered. This is the amount of team members that we pulled into place from different categories or different departments to help with the investigation. And all of that really needs to be documented well. So it's a little bit more intensive than just logging what you did for your corrective actions.
Okay. Right. Well, thank you again, Lacey, for all your expertise. And I want to thank our listeners, as always, for listening in and to stay informed on all things food safety and ensure that you don't miss any episodes of Tag Talks Food Safety. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast platform. Thank you
Thank you,
again.
Lisa.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.